All right, let's jump right in. Imagine taking your kitchen scraps, all that organic waste, and turning it directly into electricity. I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, right? But it's very real. And today we're going to break down the amazing science that makes it all possible. So it all comes down to this one kind of wild question. I mean, when we think of bacteria, we usually think of germs or maybe stuff that helps decompose things in the soil. But can these microscopic little organisms actually create a usable electrical current?
Oh, the answer is a huge, resounding yes. And get this, the way they do it is even more incredible. They generate this power by munching on the very organic matter we throw away. This isn't just some neat party trick. It's a powerful, natural process that we can actually harness.
So, to understand how this whole thing works, we've got to meet the microscopic heroes of the story. Let's just call them nature's electricians. All right, so the fancy scientific term is exoelectrogenic bacteria. But all you really need to know is that they have this incredible superpower. See, unlike us, we breathe oxygen, right? These little guys have evolved the ability to breathe solid materials. And when they do that, they have to get rid of electrons, so they literally push them right outside their bodies. So let's meet some of the all-stars of this microbial world. Species like Geobacter and Shewanella are absolute champs at this process, called extracellular electron transfer, or EET for short. It just means that instead of using oxygen to finish their breathing cycle, they use a solid surface, like, say, a piece of carbon, as a dumping ground for their electrons. And that right there, that's the key to this whole electricity thing. Now, a single bacterium isn't going to power your phone. But here's the thing, they're team players. They all clump together on a surface and create these slimy, conductive mats called biofilms. And this is just brilliant. These biofilms basically act like living biological wires, creating a whole network that can shuttle a ton of electrons all to the same spot. Okay, so we've got our power source, these amazing bacteria. But how in the world do we actually capture that electricity? Well, for that, we need to build a special kind of biobattery, which is known as a microbial fuel cell. So just like any battery you've ever seen, our biobattery has two sides. On one side, you have the anode. Think of this as the bacteria's home base, their stage. It's usually made of something like carbon cloth, and it's where they live, eat, waste, and release all those electrons. Then on the other side, you have the cathode. That's the finish line. It's where those electrons will end their journey by combining with oxygen. Now, the real magic happens right in the middle. There's this special membrane separating the two sides. And here's the trick. When the bacteria break down waste, they release both electrons and protons. This membrane lets the protons zip right through, no problem. But, and this is the genius part, it blocks the electrons. It forces them to take the long way around through an external wire, a circuit that we control. And a flow of electrons through a wire is, well, literally the definition of electricity. All right, we've got the components down. Now let's pop the hood and look at the elegant chemistry that actually creates that spark. This is the secret sauce for turning waste into watts. We can actually follow an electron on its big adventure in 5 simple steps. First, the bacteria on the anode start munching on waste, like acetate. Second, this process frees up electrons and protons. Third, the electrons, having nowhere else to go, flow through our circuit, maybe powering a little light. Fourth, at the same time, the protons are traveling across that membrane. And finally, on the other side at the cathode, everyone meets up. The electrons, the protons, and oxygen from the air all combine to form the one and only byproduct, clean water. How cool is that? Now, for all you chemistry fans out there, this is what it looks like on paper. Don't let the symbols scare you. This is just the scientific way of saying bacteria eat acetate and water, and out pop bicarbonate, some protons, that's the H+, and of course, our VIPs, the electrons, the E-. This is happening millions of times over on the anode. And here is the grand finale at the cathode. The oxygen in the air, the protons that cross the membrane, and the electrons that just did all that work for us in our circuit, they all combine to form pure H2O, a perfectly clean end to the process. So we know how it works, but the big question is, how well does it work? Let's talk about the key metrics scientists use to measure the performance, or what I like to call the oomph factor, of these microbial fuel cells. First up is voltage. A single microbial fuel cell will typically produce somewhere between 0.2 and 0.8 volts.
Now, that's less than a standard AA battery, for sure. But remember, just like with regular batteries, you can stack these cells together to crank up the overall voltage. Next is a really important number called Coulombic efficiency. Think of it like this. For every 100 electrons the bacteria release, how many do we actually capture and turn into useful electricity? That's what this percentage tells us. The goal for researchers is to get this number above 80% to make sure we're being as efficient as possible. And finally, we have power density. This is the real oomph factor. It tells you how much power you can get per square meter of your electrode. And as you can see here, while a basic setup might give you about 1 watt, highly optimized systems in labs can get 5 times that, or even more. It just shows there's a huge potential for improvement here. Of course, this technology isn't perfect. Yet. It's an active field of research, and scientists and engineers are constantly working to solve some common puzzles. For example, what if your current is super weak? The cause could be a poorly formed biofilm on the anode. The solution? Using specific bacterial cultures and keeping those electrodes clean. Or what if your efficiency is low? A common culprit is oxygen leaking into the anode side, giving the bacteria an easier breathing option than your electrode. The fix is simple but absolutely crucial. Make sure all your seals are airtight. So let's zoom out and bring this all together. We've met the bacteria, we've seen the biobattery, and we've walked through the chemistry. What does it all mean for our ability to generate power from waste? So what's the big takeaway? We've seen how these special bacteria can push electrons out of their bodies. We've seen how a microbial fuel cell can capture that energy, turning waste straight into watts. But the most exciting part is the dual benefit. This single technology could one day let us treat our wastewater and generate clean energy at the exact same time. That's a powerful 1-2 punch. And that leaves us with one last, kind of mind-bending idea to think about. We've just explored the science of harnessing a biological process for power. So what if, in the future, our power grids weren't just cold mechanical systems, but were integrated into a living, breathing ecosystem, powered by nature itself? It's a powerful idea to think about.